नई सुबह की नई किरण, चलो रे पंछी पार गगन। नई सुबह की नई किरण, चलो रे पंछी पार गगन। बिखरा करके किरण किरण बुला रहा है वो। नहीं देह ना देह का भान, ना तो दुनिया का है ध्यान, ना तो दुनिया का है ध्यान। आए प्रभु में खो हो जाए हम एक समान, हो जाए हम लन की लगी लगन। आओ कर ले प्रभु मिलन, आओ कर ले प्रभु मिलन।
To steer the function further, let us start the second day, first technical session of this 5-day online FDP on the topic Technology Management. This FDP is organized by the Department of MCA, Patna Women's College, to provide great platform for faculty to upgrade and enhance their knowledge in the area of technology management. May I now have the honor to introduce and welcome our eminent resource person, Dr. Shailesh Srivastav, Head Senior Technical Director, DGRC, Patna, Bihar, to give a talk on e-governance. Presently, Dr. Shailesh is working as software engineer in various government projects since 75 years in the area of ICT development, web application development, mobile app, integrated service diversity, rural e-governance framework, GIS, large databases networks, security protocols, etc. He has completed his research in digital image watermarking from Bharatiya University, Coimbatore, Tamil Nadu. He has been awarded national gold medals for e-governance. He is also a winner of CSI Nihalant e-governance award, excellence award for last 7 years by Computer Society of India. Sir has published 17 papers in international journals. Wholeheartedly, sir, thank you, sir, very much for accepting our invitations. May I now request our eminent resource person, Dr. Shailesh Srivastav, to kindly start the technical session. I extend a warm welcome to you, sir, and take over the session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. First of all, I thank Principal Ma'am, Bhavna Ma'am, and all the faculty members of MCA Department, Women's College, the authorities at AICTE for allowing us to share our experience with the faculty members. I have been informed that variety of area people have joined. So this next 3 sessions which I will be taking, I will mostly concentrate on the those aspects which basically suits the general public requirements. Because if we talk more on the domain specific, maybe it may not be suitable for many. So we will have a glimpse of both the technology and the implementation. So my today's the three sessions will be divided in. The first will be introduction to our e-governance systems, the framework, the processes, how exactly they touch upon our life or the life of the citizen. The second part, mostly we will introduce to the various kind of technologies which basically are available for integrating with the e-governance systems. And the third part is our implementation. How exactly, what are the products which are currently available, which are being, which are basically success stories and which have been used by variety of decision makers across the country. This is what exactly we will be. I'll be very happy that at the end of each session, please raise your questions. I'll be very happy to answer those. Before we start, we have a small presentation. Let me start that presentation. So, is my screen is visible?
Yes, sir.
Very. Okay, so in the current COVID pandemic, you can see that the role of the technology has become very crucial. People wanted to access the e-governance services. Even working from home itself was a tough task to enable people to work from home, and the entire perspective of the society has changed, in which technology has become enabler for delivering of the system. As we understand, we'll mix Hindi and English so that it becomes easy for all. Um, Basically, last 5-6 months, everyone has got lot of change in their life, and technology has become has played central role in delivering services, maybe to the remotest places which are available on the earth. Most of the people there provided services, either health services or education services, or say citizen centric services. Most of them either were stopped or were being delivered through the technology platform. Now the role of technology people was very important in this case, that we were really tested at the time about those things which were not exactly needed earlier. I see many of us, we won't have imagined that sitting at our homes or sitting at different places, we are connected to each other. Mostly we will be joining through physics in the conferences. Now, in such cases, the technology has to become an enabler for the citizen and has to provide services so that their satisfaction level basically is there. In the case of education also, you could find that most of the private schools, they basically started classes. Then lot of technology platforms were created by most of the big institutions, whether IITs, NITs, that were there. In government also, we had a challenge to create technology platform for work from home. There were some issues with the public platform also, because as we convert the entire content maybe need to be encrypted or need to be protected from unauthorized access. So the change in the technology perspective basically came in the picture, and there was a need to reassess what exactly we were doing. Later on, as we understand, China basically, China and India, there this cyber attacks only, and unfortunately we were at the receiving end, and we generally we do not forcibly do some things to other countries, but we were in the receiving end. And recently you may have heard that many of our servers were hacked due to variety of yeah. Now, so what this basically mean for
Sir,
us?
your audio is not very clear.
Audio is not clear.
Hello.
Is it okay now?
I think the net is unstable.
Yeah, just give me a minute. Can I rejoin? Let me do that.
Please wait for a few minutes. Sir is going to resume back.
I think there was some network issue. Hello, am I audible? I think there was some network issue and sir got disconnected. So, uh, I, within few minutes he'll be joining again.
Is it okay now? Hello?
Hello. Yes, sir, but little bit his breaking of the voice is there. I think so.
voice properly.
Sir, sir, you can switch off your video and you can start the presentation.
Okay, done. Is it okay now? Hello.
Yes, sir, it's okay, sir. Now you can start.
Oh, done. Okay. Okay. So presentation is visible.
Yes, sir, it is visible.
So technology has its own issues. Okay. So what we were talking is the perspective by which the technology delivery system which we had developed was not sufficient to handle this very indifferent situation. So there was a need to change the entire perspective. And that perspective is also related to e-governance. So firstly, we will introduce e-governance, how exactly, what are the things available, and then we will move. See, if you see 90s, we were talking about bringing IT, information technology, to delivery of the services or delivery of the systems. But that time, the entire service delivery was confined to specific locations. That is, people were not accessing services on mobiles. Mobile computing was at very minimum, and people were confined to computer centers or kiosk or somewhere where fixed line locations need to be accessing the system. But later on, information technology has the another dimension which is basically added, which is the communication technology. Now today there are variety of platforms available, variety of ways by which services can be delivered to the citizens, including the Wi-Fi, mobile networks, and variety of things are available. So this was an opportunity for the government also to take this technology forward to the remotest village. Government of India came up with a comprehensive 23,000 crore plan called NEGP, National E-Governance Plan. This was a 5-year plan, basically targeted for creating mission-mode projects, both central and state. The basic purpose was that the e-governance system should be able to handle the citizen expectations in larger way. This NEGP basically had variety of mission mode projects, including the high courts, land records, the say MCA kind of project, which basically talks about this corporate affairs department. So many actions were initiated in which the central and state both government participated. Now this technology basically required that we needed to have various technology platforms, and these platforms basically will be sharing among the citizen, government departments, as well as the service providers. And that's why we basically created variety of infrastructures across country. Out of that all those infrastructures currently has been augmented to provide quality service delivery in the in system. Now, e-governance basically tends toward good governance. See, good governance is an agenda for most of the political system, and in democracy, good governance is one of the need for delivering service. So, e-governance basically was aimed for good governance, and the purpose was that how the delivery system, which was very yeah, lethargic, very delayed, duplicate, lot of problems were there, how these processes can be improved so that we have variety of service available. Now, this entire ecosystem which has been created in and around the governance system basically talks about creating ICT infrastructure which makes life more easy, and we are able to answer those queries which address why, when, where, and how. The service delivery platforms also now are under Right to Public Service Act. That is, governments wanted that the service delivery should be specified within a time. In case of the state of Bihar, you can find that there is a RTPS, Right to Public Service, which guarantees that within a stipulated time service has to be delivered. Then in case there is nothing, all those timelines by different agencies or authorities also is being maintained by softwares, so that in case there is any delay in delivery of service, that delay basically also results in penalizing to the officer. Similarly, we also come up with a grievances, Bihar grievances, grievance redressal act also. There, the grievances of citizen also were brought into a specified time limit. What we were trying to do is that e-governance system only does not work that we have a set of processes which have been reformed. It is necessary that there are legal backing to the initiatives, and one of them is providing a timeline for providing services. And currently in entire country, if you find, there is a specified, most of the government services have been brought under specified services. Now, there will be a day, this is just we are thinking that there will be a day in which digital service delivery platform will be mandatory for most of the departments or government entities, because every time people have to go to multiple locations, plus there is a need to share information by the citizen to different authorities of the same government. Now, if we enable this kind of platform where there is a one-stop solution available, where citizen has to interact only with one interface, and internal processes of that particular transaction is being handled by different departments, is automatically able to share the information, and there is a predetermined formats and all these things which allows you to share applications or share data. That is the need of our, which I think in next 5 to 10 years we will be finding that people are having this kind of agreements with this. I just like to share one information with you. Recently, in the month of February, I was at Estonia. Estonia is one country in European Union. My experience there was that they basically firstly created a citizen database. So everyone who reaches Estonia, everyone who is born in Estonia, everyone who is basically directly or indirectly associated with any of the companies or any of the activities in Estonia are registered in different categories, and they cannot do anything unless they are registered in the database. What exactly benefit you get? The major benefit is that this centralized database is attached to around 50-60 separate databases, which database ensure that if you are studying in the school, how much subsidy you have got, if you have gone to a private doctor, what was his prescription, what medicines has been prescribed to you. So if you have paid taxes, what are the those taxes details are there. So for a citizen, there is a single interface available from where most of the services he is able to access, or the services which he has accessed is available to you. Similarly, a doctor who is a private doctor, is mandatory for him to share the diagnosis details to the central server, so that there is a complete information about you available on the central server. Let us say at any point of time, some mishap happened to that person. Just having his identity established, that hospital is able to identify what kind of medicines and what are the particular disease, everything that person is having. So this basically serves the purpose of sharing the information between the citizens, between the authorities, and they have also created a middleware kind of application. Middleware X-Roads, they told. That means what? Any private or government entity wishing to extend public service must agree to a middleware platform. That platform allows interaction of data, exchange of data, and exchange of mandatory data about the citizen to the central applications. What is advantage this? So irrespective of government or private, you have the entire repository of database of citizen, of all the activities which are being performed are available there. So such kind of services is expected in any country, and e-governance basically looks for those kind of enabling the services, enabling the people, enabling the processes, so that the processes are simple, easy. There is so a governance basically can be characterized by smart. We call it as a smart governance, but today we are moving towards intelligent governance. Smart governance basically talks about enabling properly efficient processes, which processes are simple, which are moral to the citizen, which are accountable to the people who are working in the system. They are responsive. Responsive means it should be in such a way that proactive governance. It should not be that I need to access. People say in government, let us say I am a bachelor, or I am a graduate, and I need to know that what are the jobs which is currently available in all the domain. The government should automatically provide me those kind of features, that if I go and register that I am a government graduate, I have done this diploma, I have done this, and automatically that comes in form of alerts to us. So responsive government should be there, and then transparency is very, very important, because today most of governance related services are available on internet platform, or available on intranet platforms. Now these require that digitization is not just sufficient for bringing it transparent. Transparent processes need to be created. The role of individuals need to be created. Today we are talking of faceless technologies. Faceless means who I am should not be who I am should not be hindrance in the decision of the processes which are established. So faceless technology should be there, that anybody who is there, who has the eligibility to get, is able to get this service. So in smart governance to the citizen is must. Slowly there are varieties which have been created I governance, which is intelligent governance, governance, which is basically mobile based governance. Today, with India having say 1.30 crore, 130 crore population, with say more than 120 crore million, 120 crore mobile phones available. Today the world has moved from the normal service delivery to mobile first delivery system. That is, mobile first delivery system means first the services people are thinking that can we bring on the mobile phones, and further they can be upgraded to other services. So as we bring services to the this single platform like mobile phones, you will find that the perspective of development of the application completely changes. The security considerations changes, the privacy issue has to be addressed, the lot of issues which when we run on identified clients will completely change when we are talking of running applications on the mobile phones. So that's why we are telling that the perspective has changed, and the perspective requires that there is a proper thinking of redesigning the processes based on this. If we categorize the e-governance services, we can have variety of services categorized as G2C, government to citizen. Many of the government, either central government or state government, has to provide variety of services to the citizens in form of caste certificate, income certificate, various kind of certificates need to be issued to the citizens. Different kind of subsidies has to be provided, different kind of licenses need to be provided. All these are part of our G2C services. Similarly, lot of business houses also get variety of licenses, paying taxes, participating in tenders, participating in say sales and purchase related activities related to government we are talking. So we can have G2B or B2G services. So all those services will be part of our G2B or B2G services. Similarly, there are a lot of inter and intra-government related services. There are various departments which are lot of they have mandate to do service. Like if you see forest department, any road which crosses through forest area need to be cleared by forest department. Or if there is any activity in the forest land, or there are variety of available departments available, there need to have a clearance from that. All this clearance currently is being done online, and many of the cases there is a need to have government to government transactions or department level transactions between different departments, so that there is a proper sharing of data between these departments for delivery of service. So these are basically G2G services. Similarly, see, lakhs and lakhs employees work with the government, both contractual employees and the government employees. There is a need that these government also provide services to the employees in terms of employment, in terms of say loans, advances, variety of things are available, retirement benefits. Even many of you know that we have started Jeevan Praman, which basically establishes which provides life certificate of the person. Earlier they had to go to banks, now it is not necessary. You can provide the life certificate to the bank or to the authorities from house itself. So those kind of services are part of our G2E services. Notifications, promotions, all this part will be part of HRMS softwares which are currently running at variety of applications. So if you see lot of G2C services in the country, many of the states have more than 300 to 350 services available for citizens on all this integrated into a single platform available. Central and state government, many of the clearances, fund transfers, project clearances from state government to central government, all those things are part of our G2G services. Even state government now is clearing variety of local government like ULBs, Panchayati Raj institutions, their fund transfer, their scheme approvals, everything done through the this IT platforms. Similarly, the business, the NGOs and civil society also get services from the government. So the role of government today is not, I remember when we started our career, say around 94 or something, that time when we will simply do computerization of payroll. Payroll computerization means that we will make our bosses happy because they will feel that employees will get a salary slip. Now, over a period of time, the technology and the expectations have changed. If today, in 2020, if I go and tell that I have computerized the salary bills of somebody, the boss will tell that you have no work than doing all these things. That means it has changed completely the perspective in which the application service delivery is being done. So, so it is necessary that based on the available resources, based on the platforms which are available, it is necessary that we basically change our strategy also. So there is a need to have partnership between various stakeholders, whether it is citizen, whether it is different departments, whether it is business houses, employees, and the government itself. So there need to have a framework created. Now a question is, can we have a centralized system, a SAP kind of system for entire governance related functions, and there is a single software which basically does entire operations? See, in today's world, we are not moving towards a single applications. Rather than, we are talking of, can we have a hybrid kind of applications? Can we have integration of variety of applications where the highest level applications basically integrate services rather than deliver services? And there can be a smaller applications which can be running at the lower ends, which we basically will be talking about how exactly the applications will be hosted on, and how these applications will be sharing the data in form of, say, web services, in form of security protocols, in form of accessing information. See, today, building an application is not just running in a single computer center. We need to integrate variety of platforms which are available. Either we have a banking platform available in which most of the financial transactions need to be integrated with them. There are a lot of payment gateways available. Those payment gateways are being provided by variety of service players. Similarly, there are a lot of interfaces like common service centers available in country, which basically act as a front-end service. Like in case of Bihar, you have RTPS counters. Now, RTPS counter has been designed to provide service at, say, kiosk, or that is, citizen has to visit to those centers and they get free of cost service. Now, it is necessary that these CSCs or these may not be accessing a single service. They may be accessing variety of services, but there is a need to exchange information between those interfaces and the application which is running. It's not just that they will log in your application and they will access. Many of the cases, the data also need to be exchanged. The credential need to be exchanged. The transaction which is happening, success or failure of transaction also need to be exchanged between applications. So a robust kind of application integration is needed at this stage for ensuring that there is a proper system available. When we are talking of G2C services, there is a need to provide citizen a simple yet is simple, easy to access, yet secured access to them. So the main focus is we design a format which is very convenient, simple. They are able to access those forms from the remote locations. Many of the locations you may be knowing that 80 to 85% of the citizen basically live in villages where connectivity is not that. Even we develop applications which we develop for say panchayats or for villages, you will find that many of these applications people will tell you that sir, connectivity is not poor, connectivity is very poor, and we cannot access application online either through mobile app or through any platform. Now in such case what happens that we require that such application which basically synchronizes data. That means the data is firstly stored in the mobile phone itself. The at later stage, at certain intervals, the data basically is updated to the central server at remote locations. And whenever there is a internet connectivity available, that kind of operations can be done. So updating the data at regular interval, ensuring that there is a proper consistency between the transactions, there is a proper updation of applications at remote locations is a challenging job. And managing those applications is also going to be very, very tedious process. So whenever we implement G2C services, the emphasis basically has to is there that who is going to access, what is their ability, from where that will be accessed, and whether the simplification of processes is needed or not. So when we design applications, it is necessary that all those kind of things taken in consideration. Otherwise, many of the applications which are designed at very good shape, very good nice this thing, but fail to deliver. The reason is the local conditions are not taken care. So it is very, very important that we minimize the processing time, we minimize the time duration of accessing the information, and the interface designing itself is it is not just that interface basically simply we design. Today, many of us are developing large databases about the citizen. If you see a PDS database of say Bihar itself has 1.8 crore family members, and each family say around 4 to 5 members. That means it is going to be more than 8 crore transactions that the people are going to have. Now somebody goes to the PDS shop. Currently, you may be knowing that biometric authentication is being done before the service is being delivered in form of say rice and all this thing. So matching the information from the PDS shop to 8 crore people, because see, a family member, anybody can go to the ration shop. He will put his biometric. That biometric need to be authenticated through say Aadhaar server, and then after authentication it has to be verified from the database. All those things require that a huge proper structured databases as well as a proper structured network design is available, which basically has a proper response time. Otherwise citizen will go there, there will be a lot of queues, and sometimes there will be a lot of problem in the transaction itself. So it is necessary that such kind of application requires that there is a proper infrastructure. And we were already talking that there is already law available in the public domain, which basically enforces delivery of services to the citizen, to the business in within a stipulated time, and in case it is not delivered within time, there are penalties available. See, technology has its own problems, data has its own problem, service delivery has its own problem. It's not that today if I'm talking, it's important that let us understand that the data which is available in form of databases, how clean that data is. Is it possible that a person does not go and do mutation or update his land records related data in the database, and we deliver a mutation kind of online service? It's not possible, because such kind of thing require that there is a legislation available which basically provides those kind of um, system. Similarly, see, many of us, we feel that any application which we want to deliver, let us place on internet and deliver the service. See, as we understand, if we put up any application on internet, there are a variety of rules that need to be followed. Ministry of Information, Electronics and Information Technology has also issued a guideline that what application, how application, and what should be methodology that must be followed for putting application on internet. Because there is always chance, that, okay, just let me confirm. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir, you are audible.
because see, I'm not there. That's right. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so what we do is, see, if we put everything on internet, there is always chance that somebody, see, your access to the citizen will become very easy. But what happens that vulnerability factor for those applications also increases. This is the fact that anything which you create on this world is addressable, or it is possible to hack them. We cannot challenge anybody. It's possible. It's possible, and let us have that as a baseline, that anything which we create is possible that we can create, is possible that people can try to hack or do. If Twitters, Google, and all those kind of very secure networks, they are basically being that is being accessed by illegal person, then you can think of other applications. So what is required, that we need to divide the entire applications into two parts. The one part will be intranets, and the second part can be internet based. When we want to deliver services to the citizen, to the public, let us say any online application, we need to get some data from citizen. Those things we can put up on internet. But let us say I have treasuries available. These treasuries are only accessible by identified set of people. Today we are, you may be knowing that we have the elections currently in process, and maybe within 2-3 days we will have the declaration of elections also, and just we are expecting that. Now you may be knowing that there are, say, more than 7 to 8 lakhs people data is available on this database, who will be used in the election process. Now, if you place this data on, say, public networks, there is a chance, I'm not telling that it can be, but there is a chance that somebody can, in spite of all the effort what you do, because you do not know the infrastructure which has been created, whether it is a security audited or not, whether the software they are using, see, your application can be security audited, but the infrastructure which is available there, generally we blindly follow that they are basically security audited, but it does not happen so. Many cases There are a lot of loopholes in the security standards. Even say the language frameworks what we use, say .NET framework or PHP. There are a lot of security patches and releases takes place. Many of the cases, no, you will find that those patches are not updated, and due to this, there will be a lot of security related issues. So in such cases, it is possible that the entire security issue of the e-governance application also need to be addressed in a proper manner and need to be rethought at different intervals, so that it's not that static, that if you develop an application and you have secured environment created, that environment is not going to be yeah, somebody is not going to access that at later stage. It's not so. Many cases it is advisable that every 3-4 months time all the security related parameters need to be addressed for e-governance application. There are variety of applications. In the last session, we'll be talking about variety of applications which basically NIC at national level and state level is running, so that you will have feel of what exactly things are basically done in the this thing. So there are variety of services which is available in the government. We have e-hospital currently. Many of you just you visit to this IGIMS. In case you are visiting, you have e-hospital. In case you want to register for any somebody at AIIMS Delhi for some treatment, they are using e-hospital, and that is basically a good product that has come up, in which the hospital management related activities are basically has been automated. Similarly, many of the government functions, you will find that most of the government related schemes like NREGS, Indra Awas Yojana, release of funds, release of subsidies, everything basically has come up through delivery of information as well as payment related systems. Even there is an online RTI kind of things available, which basically allows you to handle, put up RTI related queries. Then the RTI is also heard online nowadays through video conferencing. So those kind of things are there. Similarly, transport related services are also available, in which online tax collection, online variety of services are available, online services are available. Now, if we implement e-governance or m-governance services, generally what we are expecting that we will have the documentation simpler. We will be talking about our one of the e-office solution, which currently we have implemented in variety of departments across country. Many of the countries like Sri Lanka also has adopted such products. So what we are looking at that, in case we implement e-governance, we will have simple documentation in form of metadata, basically being stored in the databases, so that there is a search facility available. At any point of time, we'll be able to search this based on the data. Then we will have fast responses, in which variety of this large set of cloud services currently available in most of the data centers available. Either you can use public cloud or private cloud available, and you will be able to access those services through them. Currently, there is another, many of you may be knowing about GEM. GEM is another initiative of government, in which online purchase has been allowed. The vendors can be registered, the customers can be registered, online bidding can be done, and any product can be procured through this. Similarly, we have another software, that is e-procurement. There is a another software available which basically allows tendering process, automated tendering process. Many of you know that crores and crore defense and state government related lot of tenders basically take place. When earlier what was happening, that there will be people will be murdered, people will be forced not to fill up the tenders. All those kind of things were there. Today, using digital signatures, using digital platforms for e-procurement, we allow the vendors to participate, suppliers to participate, and customers to get proper price for this thing. So such kind of simple procurement process, automated procurement process through digital platform is currently available. Similarly, using the mobile technology, using the say common service centers, using the help desks, using the various cyber cafes, the reach of the services has gone to. Today, when we are talking, let me inform to you people that recently we have opened up for 12th, those girls who have passed 12th this year, for them now we have opened, and those who have passed from Bihar board, they can apply for a subsidy of 10,000 rupees under Kanya Uthan Yojana. Now, just you see that how the entire change has happened. When earlier, what was the process? The earlier, there will anybody who will be passing 10+2, the school will prepare a list of students who will be who have passed. Then they will send to say district education officer. Then from there it will come to education department. Then the fund will be decided. Those much fund will be transferred to say DEO office to sometimes BEO office, then BEO office to the school, and from that school that fund will be transferred to the student. And you know that the more number of levels created, the more chances of corruption is there. So what will happen? The actual 10,000 may reduce to 6,000 rupees in the hand of the student. So such kind of things, currently what is happening, if you create a portal, people apply, they get it verified through the system, and later on they basically get online transfer to their accounts through DBT. That basically provides a faster reach of services to the citizen, as well as providing very effective service delivery system. Because earlier it was taking 3 to 4 months, 5 months, or sometimes years to deliver services. Now, within 3 months, we are able to complete those kind of things. So that is possible. Similarly, I think many of you are using ICT technology for education purposes. Many of us, we are basically trying to place education related e-learning, video conferencing kind of thing, all those things, platform for the students, online test, mock test, all those things basically has accelerated to the citizen, to the people who never imagined that a quality materials which were available in IITs, NITs are now available through various platforms which have been created by MHRD or AICT kind of organizations, UGC kind of organization, which enables people to access quality information. And the digital divide in education, which were earlier existing, I'm not telling that it has been completely eliminated, but there is a complete dissemination of information between the to the citizens or to the students, so that there is a quality material available, quality education available to the large set of people. The e-governance has also improved the public participation. The people have awareness that these are the services, these are the things that need to be done, these are the eligibility criteria, and anybody who has eligibility can directly participate. The transactions now has been simplified. See, I used to tell, see, 3 things which the government has created: the Aadhaar platform, the banking platform, and the mobile phones. This JAM platform basically has simplified entire process. Can you think? I'll tell you how exactly the simplification has been done. We see there is a scheme called Mukhyamantri Vridhajan Yojana in Bihar, in which 60 above 60 years people, basically we are providing this thing, pensions. These people basically gets pension, and what we have done is we ask them to fill up an online form through any cyber cafe. They have to simply authenticate their Aadhaar, and they have to upload their uh, just 1 minute. Just 1 minute. I'll simply.
Participants are requested to kindly wait. Sir will be joining soon.
Oh, sorry. एक urgent था. Now I am available. Okay. Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what we were talking is that public participation has increased, the processes have been simplified, and see what we are doing now, that through a central system there is now methodology available by which the centralized delivery of services is possible due to the ICT infrastructure which is available. See, today you may be seeing that 11 crores of people get subsidy from Prime Minister PM Kisan Yojana in a single stroke. We could not have thought of all this kind of thing otherwise unless the e-governance platform would have been created. And this also only due to availability of Aadhaar numbers and integration of Aadhaar with the banking networks. With mobile also integrated, we basically provide alerts to this. So all this thing basically has provided a next level of governance to the citizen, and the role of service delivery persons also has increased due to the same fact. When we start e-governance initial days, we were having very minimum kind of infrastructure available. email was the main mode of communication, and most of the online services we were trying to enable this thing. Digital democracy, basically, we were talking of how digital service delivery platforms can be created. Applications were created, but they were talking as islands. Applications will be islands, they will not be talking with each other. The digitization will be there, but there will not be exchange of information, there will not be standards. I'll give you one small example. See, location code itself addressed by different applications may be very, very different. See, if you want to know that in particular district or in particular panchayat, how many Aadhaar numbers have been created, you may not be able to identify. What is the reason? Because they do not capture your district, block, or panchayat like thing. When you go to the e-governance systems in the government, you will find that the location codes that is being used by two different applications may be completely different. Now, in such cases, there was a need that these kind of islands of application start talking with each other. And that is, unless otherwise we integrate these kind of services, public service channels cannot be enabled. So, the first stage was creating applications which mainly addressed the digitization needs of that particular department. At the second level, we went for integration of these kind of islands of services so that there is some convergence of service which is available. Let us say one of the example I will tell you. Many of you, now you open a bank account, you will find that you need to specify this PAN number. Now, this PAN number basically, when you earlier also they were asking, but they will not authenticate from the income tax department website whether you have provided correct this number or not. Let us say you are providing Aadhaar number, whether this Aadhaar number is of yours or not, it was not being validated. They will simply enter your Aadhaar number, that's all. Now currently what has been done, these kind of systems have been integrated. Now what will happen? As you get in your account, if your PAN number is seeded in your account, you will find that if the interest amount is more than say 10,000 rupees or something, or if taxes at TDS need to be deducted, automatically bank will be deducted, and that will automatically go to your bank this thing income tax statement. There, if you see form 26A, you will find that that is basically visible there, that this much TDS has been detected by this bank, or this has been detected by this particular assessees. Now, what is the advantage of this? If we integrate this kind of applications, though it may be sometimes difficult for us, but integrating these kind of systems helps to exchange information between the applications, and this will minimize unnecessary duplication of operations by the citizen, and that is basically the main aim of the e-governance applications. The e-governance basic challenge basically is not just technology, but there are organizational issues. There are issues related with the processes. There are issues related with the rules or this thing, rules in form of acts which are available. We need to handle those things, because sometimes you will find that it is mandatory that physically you must visit that place. So if we do not change if we enable the technology, but if it is written in the law that it has to be physically present, then the entire process enablement is going to be waste. So organization has to be made intelligent. The processes need to be redesigned, and similarly, the technology enablement can be a supplementary thing for the e-governance services. We need to also have a realistic analysis of what exactly is needed, what exactly services need to be enabled. We need to redefine the rules and procedures for data collection, processing, storage, decimation, and decision making. Because if I issue a certificate which is not ink signed and it is not accepted by some authorities, then everyone has to go to that place. You may be knowing that digital locker has been enabled by government, in which most of our certificates are being delivered. Either you take Aadhaar number, either you take Aadhaar card, either you take uh, this vehicle yeah vehicle related details. Either you take your 10th or 12th certificates. Many of the universities has basically integrated with the um, this DigiLocker, so that, see, the problem of maintaining those documents at local place can be minimized. Plus, in case we need to share those data or information to any authority, that can be facilitated from there itself. So there is a need to, as I have been talking a lot about the information security, we were talking about the legal issues that need to be handled, and we need to practically talk that there is 100% transparency in the processes which we are designing. Similarly, infrastructure, see, just computers are not going to be sufficient. Infrastructure in terms of power, infrastructure in terms of cooling, infrastructure in terms of backbone connectivity, infrastructure in terms of, say, additional resources which will be required for delivering the services. Now, many cases we fall in a trap in which digitization basically digitization process basically is only done for record keeping purpose. See, there are two ways by which the e-governance systems can be built. One is you do the manual system, and then you record the transactions in computer based system, so that those records are maintained for future references. The second process is you basically do the entire transaction with this e-governance system itself, which we generally do in very banking kind of system, income tax, or many kind of systems we do. Now, what is required in that? That requires that a very highly reliable availability of the system should be very, very high. Hosting the infrastructure has to be 24/7, and there should be a proper change in the processes, culture, and delivery mechanism which we are creating. So all this need to have to be redesigned accordingly. Similarly, the basic challenges what we find in implementing the e-governance services are, firstly, priority. Which is the first priority and which is the next priority? It is going to be a very, very important, because people define priority based on their convenience. Now, many cases, the government departments basically take in consideration their priority rather than the citizen priority. So every system has to be designed with the citizen first, their requirement first. It is very, very important. Similarly, infrastructure. You know that maybe around 60% of the area where services we need to deliver is not connected, and people have to travel, say, around 7 to 8 kilometers to access the services. Thanks to common service centers and other cyber cafes which have been created in both in public and private sectors, we have some accessibility to the services to locals. But still there is lot of unavailable sectors due to unavailable locations due to unavailability of infrastructure, poor connectivity. And see what happens, no, let us say you deliver service at one time, and multiple times somebody has to return back. So what they will look into कि एक बार जाकर के अगर लौट आते हैं तो दूसरा बार तीसरा बार सोचते हैं कि जाए या नहीं आए. So it is very, very important to see that there is the unavailability of services is not there and proper connectivity is available there. Similarly, when we design applications, local language is another problem, because most of the technology orientation has originated from USA or foreign countries. These does not take in consideration all the parameters, or the technologies which are available are most suitable for English language rather than Hindi language. So there is a need that in case we are looking for Atmanirbhar Bharat, it is necessary that there is a need for variety of services enabled in the local language. And there is no, in India, there are a huge number of dialects which are available. The language changes. There is a lot of issues with the language interpretation. So all those things are issues which need to be addressed. Similarly, lack of manpower to deliver quality service, to develop quality services. Still, it is confined in metro cities, and those services are only accessible at remote locations. Low quality of inputs are there. Similarly, low quality of our outputs are there. See, the quality of data that is basically fed into the system, basically there is log. People will take कि sanction number नहीं है, ये वाला data नहीं है, उसका data नहीं है, इसका data नहीं है. Many cases you will be asked to design system in which many of the data which is not available, but you have to design the system, and they will put the garbage data without considering that why this data has come, because they do not understand this thing. Later on, when you analyze those data, you will find that the data has become misleading, and that decision making based on that data can lead to a lot of problems. And if you try to correlate that data from the existing already data sets which are available, there also you will find there will be a lot of problems available. So we have to ensure that the services, quality services which are available is reached to the remotest places. Otherwise, what will happen? The have ones will be more benefited than have nots. People who are not able to access the services or the systems will not be able to get the true benefit of the e-governance systems. Now, yes. Okay. So what we require is, till this date, what we have been doing is we have been doing the computerization related only activities. Now what we are doing, what we need to have much beyond computerization, rather than we need to enable a complete ecosystem in and around our IT based systems, so that there is a complete convergence of services, there is a proper secured environment available, people are able to access services, and there is a complete holistic approach available. Today, many of countries like Singapore and all, they are moving from normal e-governance services to e-government itself. See, when we visited Estonia, we saw that the entire cabinet room was e-enabled. The entire assembly election process was e-assembly. It was e-cabinet. It was e-assembly. That means they had completely enabled the entire ecosystem into a citizen-centric service model. Now, does this mean that we are just talking of just computerizing the services or enabling the services? No. The entire digital transformation of government services need to have to provide efficient services, convenient services, transparent services, and services to the citizen. These services enablement requires that there is a proper enablement of technologies at different places. It's not just that a centralized system, but a proper enablement of services at different places. Okay, so what we are looking up, we will have we are looking up to create a IT vision for the state, IT vision for the country, and there is a complete comprehensive plan available for delivering G2G, G2C, and G2B services available. Many of the states have already come up with this kind of services.
Sorry to
And-
interrupt you, sir.
Yes, yes.
Sir, with your permission, shall we take a short tea break?
Sure.
Uh,
Sure.
so-
Just let me 2-3 minutes more. I'll
Okay,
just
sir.
finish.
Okay, okay, sir. Okay.
So, when we are talking of building any e-governance systems, it is necessary that we must first understand what is the delivery system which is required from this project, who will be our stakeholders, what are the modules which we need to develop, whether we are going for open source software or we are going for license-based software. There is no thumb rule available that we should go like this only or that only. Based on the availability of technology, based on the availability of manpower, based on the suitability of organization, we can adapt to this kind of things. Many of the state governments have gone for this open source technologies, but they also have a lot of limitations. And it is necessary that suitable selection of databases, suitable selection of platforms, integration of platforms, all this thing is very, very important for selection of this thing. And it is also necessary that what is the capability of the organization to adapt to the technology. बहुत बार आप देखिएगा कि हॉस्पिटल खुल गया, बहुत बड़ा सा वेरी हाई एंड इक्विपमेंट भी लग गया, लेकिन कभी वो ऑपरेशनलाइज नहीं हुआ. Why this? Because we didn't do analysis of the people who are going to operate, or the processes, or the maintenance, or all kind of things. So that's why it is very, very essential that we basically understand the capability of the organization which is trying to implement those things, and it cannot be done in a day. It has to be for say around say 3-4 year plan, in which slowly in incremental order those kind of technology need to be implemented in the different processes. Okay, so we will break for say 5 minutes and then we can rejoin. Okay.
We can take us. It's 11:40 now. So
Okay.
15 minutes. 15 minutes can we
15.
take, sir?
Okay. No
Okay.
problem.
So the participants are requested to come. Can take a short tea break of 15 minutes, and at 12 we will resume back the session.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir.